Hello, my artsies. Welcome back to Art Fables, where every brushstroke tells a story and every painting becomes a gateway to wonder. In this episode, we journey into the heart of the marshlands, guided by the grace of a great white egret named Luma. Through vibrant hues and sweeping lines, this painting invites us to reflect on the beauty of nature and the invisible threads that connect us all. Prepare to immerse yourself in a tale of courage, connection, and transformation, a story where the smallest voices can spark the greatest realizations, and the flight of a single bird can inspire us to see the world anew. This is the grace of Luma. Let's begin. In a land where the sky melted into hues of lavender and gold, there stretched a vast marsh. It was a world brimming with life. Frogs croaked songs to the moon, reeds danced to the rhythm of the wind, and dragonflies traced silver patterns in the air. Towering over this lively scene was a great white egret named Luma. Luma was no ordinary bird. Her plumage shimmered like woven moonlight, and her slender neck curved like an artist's brushstroke. She carried herself with an air of grace, always poised, always apart. Each morning, as the first rays of the sun kissed the marsh, she would spread her mighty wings and soar into the sky, leaving the creatures below in awe. But Luma saw herself as different. She believed her world was the limitless sky, far removed from the bustle of the marsh. She flew high and alone, convinced that the frogs, reeds, and waters had little to do with her. One day, as dusk began to blanket the marsh in soft purples, a frog named Kip hopped onto a floating lily pad. Craning his neck, he watched Luma preen her feathers. "Why do you always fly so high, Luma?" Kip croaked, his voice carrying a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Luma paused mid-preen, glancing down at the tiny frog. "Because the sky is my home, little one," she replied, her voice smooth as the ripples on the water. "The marsh is a lovely place, but it is not where I belong." Kip tilted his head. "Not where you belong? But don't you eat from the marsh? Don't you rest in its reeds?" Luma blinked, startled by the frog's boldness. "Yes, but that's different. My place is above all this. I am not part of the marsh like you are." The frog gave a thoughtful hum. I see," he said, his large eyes glinting in the fading light. "But tell me, Luma, if the marsh weren't here, if the waters dried up and the reeds fell, where would you find your food? Where would you sleep?" Luma opened her beak to respond, but stopped. She had never considered this before. Shrugging off the frog's words, she simply said, "The sky will always be there for me, little one. I don't depend on the marsh as you do." Kip said no more, but his gaze lingered on her as she stretched her wings and soared away into the twilight. That night, a fierce storm swept over the marsh. Dark clouds rolled in, and the wind howled like an angry beast. Rain lashed down, turning the once still waters into a churning chaos. The reeds bent under the weight of the storm, their roots clutching desperately to the earth. The frogs huddled under what little shelter they could find, shivering as the wind tore through their sanctuary. Luma had sought refuge in the tallest tree at the edge of the marsh. From her perch, she watched the chaos below. Her heart clenched as she saw the reeds bowing and the frogs struggling to stay afloat. She wanted to help, but what could a bird of the skies do for the creatures of the marsh? A sudden cry reached her ears, a small, frightened croak carried on the wind. Peering through the storm, she saw Kip clinging to a broken reed, the waters rising dangerously around him. Without hesitation, Luma launched herself into the storm. Her wings strained against the fierce winds. But she pressed on, her sharp eyes locked on the struggling frog. With a powerful swoop, she descended, landing delicately in the swirling water. "Climb onto my back," she called, her voice cutting through the roar of the storm. Kip hesitated, his wide eyes full of fear and surprise. "But you're of the sky. Why would you risk yourself for a little frog?" Luma's gaze softened. "Because maybe I was wrong. Maybe I am part of the marsh after all. Now climb on!" With a grateful croak, Kip scrambled onto her back. Spreading her wings, Luma leapt into the air, carrying the tiny frog to a small island of reeds that had survived the storm. She gently set him down, her wings trembling from the effort. "Thank you, Luma," Kip said, his voice soft but filled with gratitude. "You didn't have to save me, but you did. I owe you my life." Luma folded her wings and looked out at the marsh, which was still turbulent but beginning to calm. The reeds swayed weakly, the waters rippled with exhaustion, and the frogs' songs were faint but persistent. For the first time, Luma saw the marsh not as a separate world beneath her, but as a living, breathing part of her existence. "You were right, Kip," she said finally. "I thought I was apart from the marsh, that I didn't need it, but tonight I realized that the marsh and I are connected. Without it, I wouldn't have food, shelter, or even purpose. The marsh isn't just where I live, it's part of who I am." Kip smiled, his wide eyes twinkling. "And without you, the marsh would lose one of its greatest protectors. We're all connected, Luma. Big or small, sky or water, we all depend on one another." Luma nodded, her gaze softening as she looked at the marsh in a new light. The frogs, the reeds, the dragonflies, even the rippling waters, all were threads in the same great tapestry of life. The storm passed and dawn broke over the marsh. The sky painted the waters with hues of gold and pink, and life slowly returned. Frogs croaked, reeds swayed, and dragonflies danced once more. And among them all was Luma, no longer just a silent observer, but an active guardian of the marsh. From that day on, Luma flew not just for herself, but for the marsh and all its inhabitants. She carried water to thirsty reeds during dry spells, shielded small creatures from predators, and even helped clear debris after storms. The marsh, in turn, thrived, and so did Luma. Her graceful figure became a symbol of unity, a reminder that no matter how high one soared or how small one seemed, all were threads in the same delicate web of life. The moral of the story: no matter the size of our world or our role within it, we are all connected. Each life, whether grand or humble, contributes to the greater harmony of existence. The spiritual and symbolic meaning of the great white egret. The great white egret symbolizes grace, balance, and interconnectedness. In many cultures, it represents purity, patience, and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. It is also seen as a messenger between the physical and spiritual realms, a reminder to find harmony in our relationships with nature and one another. The current conservation status: the great white egret was once hunted to near extinction for its elegant plumes, which were highly prized in the fashion industry. Thanks to conservation efforts, it has made a remarkable recovery and is now listed as a species of least concern by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. However, wetland destruction and climate change remain threats to its habitat, underscoring the importance of preserving the delicate ecosystems that sustain life. And so, Luma's journey reminds us of a simple yet profound truth. No matter how different or distant we may seem, we are all connected, woven into the same intricate web of life. From the sweeping skies to the quiet ripples of the marsh, each of us has a role to play, a thread to weave, and a story to share. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of Art Fables. If this story moved you, Let it inspire you to look closer, live more gently, and cherish the connections that make our world whole. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does this painting and story mean to you? Share your reflections in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more episodes, and share it with someone who might enjoy the magic of Art Fables. Until next time, may you find beauty in every brushstroke and wonder in every story. See you in the next episode of Art Fables.